Hello and welcome to the Comm Majors podcast. I'm Brian Costello, and joining me, as always, is my fellow Comm Major, Jim DeSanto. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Brian?
Today, we'll be exploring the Ben Stiller comedy, There's Something About Mary. But before we get to that, as always, our most pressing question of any episode. Jim, what are we drinking this week?
Today, I am going with the E.H. Taylor small batch bourbon.
Excellent.
It's getting to the bottom there. So it was a gift from the Curran crew, Jerry and Lisa Curran, for my birthday. So
now, I don't know much about this, but I have a friend up here who drinks bourbon, whiskey, and stuff. Sometimes they pour like the last little bit. Do you pour the last little bit of each bottle into something? Are you into that whole scene?
I have not done that, but I guess I could. Keenan did give me a Stormtrooper decanter for my birthday. So,
but that's something that's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see. I never leave anything in any alcohol.
I think they call it an infinity bottle or something.
Yes. Infinity War.
Yeah.
What if you start right now and create an infinity bottle, and then we will drink the entire infinity bottle as we watch the next Infinity War film?
All right, done.
That is an episode.
Done,
right there.
done.
Excellent.
Katie is drinking the vodka.
Oh. Vodka. Well, she's the only one in the house that drinks vodka because you've already established that you think it's the most worthless liquor in the world.
It's just boring. That doesn't really have any character. You need to bring something to the table with it.
Yeah. You need a mixer.
Right.
Absolutely.
What do you got?
I'm a little different today. I have a cold, so hopefully it sounds okay. So I did not feel like drinking beer. So instead, I am drinking Jameson's Irish whiskey. Whiskey is pretty much the only thing I drink other than beer. I have no I am not very diversified in my alcohol consumption any longer.
Right.
And this is the Castmates IPA edition. So it's fantastic. No, it's very good. Just for a little bit at a time. So I drink mine. I got the big, huge ice cubes. My wife was nice to get me one of those big ones, which I like. And because I'm not feeling so great, I have some ginger ale that I'll be drinking as well.
Let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to do fact checks first. A couple of things from our last episode on Jurassic Park that we wanted to talk about. First of all, some of you might have seen on social media. Within Jurassic Park episode, I took to task the DC Comics universe. But I just wanted to say I am promoting still my love for the actual DC Comics. I'm wearing my Adam West inspired Batman t-shirt. And I talked about this in the last episode. I went and found a picture, and it'll be up on social media, of all the DC action figures in the Hall of Justice that I used to play with as a child.
That Hall of Justice looks like something someone in your family made for you.
No. This is actually not my picture. I found this online. So this was a legitimate toy. I'm really hoping it maybe gets on that Netflix show, The Toys That Made Us. Have you ever seen? Great, fantastic show if you've never seen it. But that is it. And maybe some of you will watch it and will know. And we actually had the entire Justice League in the Costello house. Batman and Robin were mine. And my brother Sean had Superman and Aquaman. And then we kind of shared some of the others. And my brother Kevin was much younger, so he wasn't even around when this was done. But it's awesome toy. I actually asked my mom if we still had it somewhere in the garage, and I don't think so. I think it's gone, but that will be up on social media for you. And so I am not a DC hater. I have not gotten any bomb threats or anything from DC people yet in regards to that. Now, we had some homework, and my guess is Jim did not do his homework because Jim was never really good at doing homework, which is why he was a comm major.
But let me tell you,
he was supposed to play guitar and get the water to ripple. And it didn't happen.
I played guitar today. And I'm sure that I played loud enough to make the whiskey ripple or the water ripple. So I can confirm, much like I've done my homework in the past, that we're good. We can make it.
You really can't confirm anything.
I can.
I almost bought a guitar today because I knew you wouldn't do it, and I was I'm that committed.
You could have reminded me.
I did my homework, which is I attempted to drive around town rocking out to Earth, Wind, and Fire. And let me report, it does not work. But I have compiled a list of 4 or 5 songs that if you choose to rock out to an adult contemporary vibe in your car, might get you a water rippling effect. So first song, Highway to the Danger Zone, Kenny Loggins from the Top Gun soundtrack. Fantastic song. Second, Power of Love, Huey Lewis and the News. Huge song.
And Back to the Future?
Yeah, Back to the Future. You can rock out to that song. You can rock out. Number 3, and I actually tested number 3 and 4 today in an after-school dance party with my children, an 80s-inspired dance party. Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. Fantastic. A song that used to be played by Pale Reason as one of their cover songs at Casey's Bar. And the final, probably best, the one I was rocking out to before tonight's episode, which people don't get to see except for Jim, is Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley.
You probably don't even know that is a meme, do you?
The Rickroll.
Yeah. Oh, you actually are aware of the Rickroll.
Yes, I am aware of the Rickroll, and I am also aware that it is a joke in the Bumblebee trailer that is coming out. If anybody has seen the Bumblebee Transformer, and which is, by the way, if we want to talk about bad franchises, that is worse than the Defeat. We will never watch one of those. So those are some of that. And one last thing. Obviously, there was a lot of pushback from Jim on my 3 Men and a Little Lebowski movie idea. And we really want to parlay this into a film. So I thought long and hard, what could we do as a film? Now, the Jurassic Park franchise is a big moneymaker.
Yeah.
We can't make a sequel to Jurassic Park per se. So I thought, let's take the 2 things that did not work in Jurassic Park. There was no humor, and there was no romance.
I mean, there was.
Let's go let's go and make a romantic comedy in the Jurassic Park universe. And I made up a poster for it for everybody to see.
God damn it.
It's called Pretty Raptor, and it is a love story between Dr. Grant and the Raptor.
I hate
Pretty
you
Raptor.
so much.
I mean, this is amazing.
This is the type of quality movie we would watch, and this unironically,
Pretty Raptor. I mean, look at this. I mean, this poster is high quality, by the way. Now, I didn't change the Richard Gere, Julia Roberts thing because you said I took too much time last time on the last poster.
You just taped them on there.
So I taped Sam Neill's head and the Raptor's
Scotch tape.
There is. But I will let you know this is a color scan, so it's a little easier to see. And I will put that. But Pretty Raptor, I think we might get it made. It's just an idea. Again, we can move on now.
That's as bad as the movie we're about to talk about.
The movie we're about to talk about is fantastic. I think you are doing yourself. I think you are doing yourself a personal disservice. And I just want to tell you something right off the bat. I don't even know you anymore. I don't even know who you are.
Fair. That's fair. And that's partly why we're doing this podcast, so we can stay in touch.
Before we start this, I need you to be the guy that would eat a hot dog off a hot dog roller for a week straight. The man who would pour peach schnapps a little bit, or actually more than a little bit, into his cup of tea cooler. The man who would wear mesh shorts 6 out of 7 days a week, and when it was too cold on the 7th day, would wear mesh pants. That's who you need to be. That guy would have watched this film and loved the whiskey. This film. You would have watched that film, and you would have loved that film.
I remember seeing this movie originally, and I was shocked to find out when it came out. Like, it came out a lot later than I originally thought.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, it was summer. So summer of '98. So after
our freshman year of college, and I feel like I laughed in the theater, which is it's understandable. It has a lot, and we can get into it. Let's first give the rundown. And it's basically, if you've never seen the movie, I will say it is worth seeing. it's a romantic comedy. Basically, it's a raunchy romantic comedy made by the Farrelly brothers. It starts off in 1985. You have Ben Stiller, who is telling this story of inviting or getting asked to the senior prom by who is seemingly the hottest girl in school. Who is played by Cameron Diaz.
Who right off the bat is hot in this movie. I don't think it's offensive to say that.
No, she's beautiful.
Stunning in this movie.
Yeah. And if, basically he gets the date because she has a mentally handicapped brother who Ted, Ben Stiller, defends when a bully starts messing with him. And so she decides she wants to ask him out on a date. And right from the get-go, you can see this guy is like not a loser, but he's definitely not cool.
A loser might be a accurate description of him. Yeah. I mean, he's got a mouthful of braces, the 85 hair, all that type of stuff.
But he's a typical teenager, awkward phase. He's not a full-on loser, if that makes sense.
No. He's not
a deadbeat. He's not a Lebowski deadbeat.
He has potential.
Yeah, right. And so from there, hilarity ensues. We'll talk about the scene.
We'll talk about that. Go ahead.
It basically cuts forward to what year was it then? 1990.
Well, probably
95.
97, 98 when they filmed
so it basically jumps like 15 years ish. And you realize that he's talking to his therapist. He decides that he is still really in love with this girl who he hasn't seen since the night of senior prom. And he basically, through a whole haphazard storyline, hires a private detective to go down to Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
To find her. She has changed her name. She is off. She's not listed, which was something that you did back in the 90s, I guess.
When there was you couldn't find anybody on social media or anything like that. That might be it. I don't know.
There's not much more to talk about.
Yeah, there's
and
not
from
more.
There, it's basically him trying to get back with this,
or,
get in this girl's good graces.
Yeah, this is not a movie that we need a major amount of plot discussion on.
Yeah.
I don't think there was probably a lot put into the plot.
Yeah. So what scenes do you want to talk about? I think
so. I thought we were going to do this. I thought we'd set it up a little bit differently because when we saw Lebowski, there was real scenes that we could break down and go into. Jurassic Park, big blockbusters have those set pieces that are easy to talk about. These are almost more like a series of one-liners and things like that. So I thought what we do is take 5 ideas or concepts and work through it. So I thought we could talk about the prologue, then the Matt Dillon private eye detective finding Mary as an idea, Ben Stiller's road trip from Providence to Miami as an idea, and then the two relationships they played off in kind of that standard romantic comedy idea where the protagonist has to win the girl from somebody else. So we look at the Matt Dillon Cameron Diaz relationship and the Ben Stiller Cameron Diaz relationship, and kind of talk about what we thought and shoot through this. I think this will be a little bit faster than some of it because it really is just one-liner things that I think either work or don't work.
Let's start with that prologue in 1985. So what happens is he goes to pick up Mary for the prom and immediately is greeted by Keith David.
Yeah, who's great in everything. That guy's great in everything he does.
Being
well, we should say Keith David is a black man.
He's an actor.
And Cameron Diaz is obviously a white actress.
It's about as white as you can get.
Yeah,
and Ted basically looks at the address like, did I get the wrong house? And then he realizes that maybe he did, and he doesn't want to be awkward, so he just says, I'm here to pick up Mary. And he says, this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, to be honest with you, because it's kind of human and interesting. He says, oh, she left for the prom 20 minutes ago with her boyfriend Woogie, who had already been set up as like a kid that who was from another school, who was like a great quarterback or
like
great,
a Greek god, basically. They set this guy, mythical individual.
Yeah, and Mary had said that they broke up. So, of course, Ted's thinking, oh, they got back together and went to the prom. He's bummed out. And then right as he's about to, like, stomp away, Keith David's like, I'm fucking with you, Ted. Like,
but it's, you know what? I agree. Because you know what's so great is that's basically mocking a lot of those John Hughes-esque comedies who did that, but also Friends. Remember that? Like, I'm not the hugest Friends fan, but that was that whole dynamic of that famous, like one of the highest viewed episodes of TV ever, when Ross and Rachel kiss, and it's the whole story of showing Ross with that horrible mustache and that she like ran off, and they just kind of like, this is an overused trope, and we're gonna mock it and make fun of it. And I did like that. They really don't have much time for the seriousness that romantic comedies take of themselves in this movie.
And so while he's waiting for Mary to be ready for the prom, he has to go use the restroom. He goes upstairs. He looks out the window and he sees these birds singing. And,
to the Carpenters, isn't it? Isn't that like, why do birds suddenly appear?
It's so dumb.
Oh God, I love the Carpenters. It's a whole. They're not as good as Captain and Tennille, the Carpenters, but they're pretty good.
And so while he's peeing, looking out the window at these birds, the birds fly away, and he realizes that the birds are in the foreground. In the background is a window to Mary's room where her mother and her are fitting her dress, I guess.
Yeah, and which, by the way, is physically impossible based on how that house looks.
Yeah, it was a way bigger house than either of us knew.
It's like bending around. Yeah, apparently there's a magical courtyard we don't know about. I don't know what's happening there.
She's in her bra, so immediately they think he's like peeping on her. And so he goes, no, I wasn't. And he quickly zips up his pants, catching his junk in the zipper, which leads to the great line, as Keith David finally goes into the bathroom to see what's wrong. He's like, would you crap yourself or something? And he says, I wish. And then Keith David basically says, how'd you get the beans above the Frank?
Above the Franks.
Which is where the whole Franks and beans comes from. Which is what Warren, Mary's brother, calls Ted for the rest of the film, Franks and Beans.
Yeah, you got to admit, are you telling me you didn't laugh at that?
I didn't laugh. There was one time I actually...
you didn't think that was funny, though?
I giggled a little bit at this part. Yeah, this part I liked. And there was one other part that made me laugh out loud.
I mean, to me, I mean, that is funny.
The problem with this movie is that all of this shock humor is just not funny on multiple viewings, and there's not really much feeling and or like good vibes in this movie to like come back for.
I don't. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but I mean, first of all, I got to take it for what it is. It's not a comedy or a film in the vein of The Big Lebowski, which is a more intelligent comedy in terms of the dialogue being structured and all that stuff. It is. Sometimes you want to talk about, pissing on rugs or, the tenets of National Socialism, and that is funny. And sometimes you just want to see a dude get his junk caught in his zipper and made a fool of himself. And that's all. I laughed. I listen. It's certainly a little over the top. It's certainly a little sophomoric, but I feel like that's what it's meant. That's what it's meant to be. And they set with when Ben Stiller's got that awful wig on with that awful tuxedo, and he's got the mouthful of braces, and everybody's looking at it. I think it's funny. I get it. It's not highbrow at all.
But there are a whole host of other non-highbrow comedies that I like a lot more than this, and there was just something about this that didn't feel. That there were like cruel scenes and non problematic concepts that weren't backed up with any kind of like interesting reason why it was happening.
No, but I don't think that's what it was intended for.
I know, but it doesn't. I'm not saying that just because it was intended to hit this mark and it hit it, it's still a good mark. It is. Like I would put things like Anchorman and Old School and those kinds of movies where there's actual like funny interactions without. I don't know. This honestly felt like if you had a really bright 15-year-old kid who wanted to make a raunchy comedy, this is what he would come up with.
Yeah. Well, that's my mindset, I think. Well, it's probably why I liked it. I am a raunchy 15-year-old in a almost 40-year-old body. All right, well, let's move on from that because we jump in. The next thing I wanted to talk about, there's a sequence of scenes here where Ben Stiller's hired Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
And I have to say off the bat, I don't remember many Matt Dillon films I've liked prior to this, or many that I've liked after this.
I don't even know what he's in.
That's what I mean. I'm gonna have to fact check. One of the fact checks I'm gonna do for next week is we know Ben Stiller went into a bunch of good stuff after this, and I know Cameron Diaz was in a bunch of good films after this, but I think she was actually good in this. Whereas usually I think she's kind of a liability in a lot of the things she's in. Right. And the same thing with Matt Dillon. So I want to check both of their films after this, because to me, I think this was a mild high watermark for the two of them in terms of their just individual performances. Yep. So Matt Damon is this kind of sleazy PI that Ben Stiller's best friend, played by Chris Elliott, who was at this point like a guy who was in stuff, which I find interesting.
Yeah, this was after that sitcom.
Yeah, that he was in. I mean, he was in a lot
Get
of
a Life?
stuff. Get a Life. He was in a bunch of stuff at this. He's kind of he's not a guy you really see anymore.
No, he's in Schitt's Creek, which is a great show. Oh, is he?
Okay. But he's not but this was his, when people really knew who he was. Right. So Matt Dillon, I'm going to try really hard this episode not to say Matt Damon, because he's
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. So he goes down to Miami to find her. And he sets up, he's kind of like this sleazy insurance investigator. Jeffrey Tambor is in it, who's always funny and just a little bit part. So he goes and finds where Mary is. Right. And this brings up a really interesting point, because later in the episode, we're going to talk about Veronica Mars. I thought there was two really overt sequences that we see in Veronica Mars. And I'm sure there was probably no connection. I don't know any connection between Rob Marshall and the Farrellys or anything. But if Rob you Thomas. See the car, Rob Thomas, I'm sorry, not Rob Thomas.
Not I don't Smooth.
Think no, I don't. Oh, that was a good song. But like when Matt Dillon is Hurley as the private investigator. He's got like this big camera and is looking through the car, which is this kind of that old one. That's almost exactly the car Veronica drives, and the sequence that's famous from the Veronica Mars title sequence in the pilot episode, shot for shot almost, which I thought was interesting. But you get this kind of cheesy gag. Again, I get if you think it's a cheesy movie, where Cameron Diaz, we're being introduced, and she's like taking her clothes, the modern Cameron Diaz in this film, and he's looking and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna snap some pictures of her taking her clothes off, and he turns over and it's her like 75-year-old disgustingly tanned neighbor's boobs instead. Magda. So I thought that was just a gag. I mean, a little laugh. It's nothing crazy, but I thought it was funny. And just establishing who Matt Dillon's character was, there were some funny lines in there. Yeah. And just one more Veronica Mars thing here. Dandy Warhol's song is at the end of the film.
Yeah, you're right.
Who provides the soundtrack. Theme song for Veronica Mars. So I don't think I'm sure there's no connection there.
I think it's just those are like iconic things for private detectives.
I'm sure they are. I think it was maybe just the car that really I was the car seems so much, and it was right around that time period. Maybe it was like that 90s, early 2000 look, everything about it. So as this is so he goes back and he says to Ben Stiller, oh my God, she's the ugliest thing in the world. He's coming up with a different excuse. Right. She's 2 bills. She has 5 kids. She's in a wheelchair. She's a Japanese mail order bride. She's all the. And Ben Stiller said, "Okay, I'm done." But then Ben Stiller says, "You know what? No, I'm going to find her." And is this? This is of no shock to Jim. Didn't date in high school. I was not cool enough, obviously, to actually have a girlfriend in high school. Would people who had high school girlfriends be this obsessed with an ex-high school girlfriend? Having not had one myself, I wouldn't know, because he is kind of stalkerish in this, and they play that joke, but it's kind of weird that he's this obsessed with her.
Well, that's sort of the point of this movie, right? Like that it's not just him. There's all of these guys are obsessed with her, and part of my problem with this movie is that, like, if they explored that really well, it would have been so much better. But instead, they just lead this whole crazy story, and it's basically one throwaway line at the end where Ben Stiller says something like, all these guys, they don't love you for real. They love the way you make them feel about themselves. So basically what this theme here is that, just because she's nice and beautiful and is kind to these guys,
they're obsessed with her.
They're obsessed with her. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should maybe check out our friend of the program, hysterically funny stand-up comedian Ron Babcock, who was involved in some of our weekly discussions, actually cut a trailer of this film as a psychological thriller. We'll make sure that we put it, and it looked intriguing. I had to say, he did a pretty good job based on what his source material was, and we'll push that out there again. But more about Ron later in our recommendation phase. So as Matt Dillon has now decided he's going to move back down to Miami, pretend to be somebody else, to marry Cameron Diaz. Ben Stiller says, I'm going to go find her, and sets up what one of the sequences I love, which is kind of his little road trip down. So they'd set up in a throwaway line in his meeting with this therapist, which I'm going to talk about it, but one of my thumbs up parts, because I love that sequence, that rest stops are these homosexual havens for like hooking up, right? Which
the bathhouses of the 90s,
the bathhouses of the 90s. So he picks up a hitchhiker, which was a guy who was in a lot of. For the life of me, I can't remember. Do you remember his name? I can't remember.
No, he had a sitcom too.
I'll find out. Do you know what? I think, is it Harlan Williams?
Yes, that's exactly who it is.
He is the creator of Puppy Dog Pals on Disney Juniors. Look that up right now and tell me this. We watch Puppy Dog Pals and any other. They'll probably have a lot of viewers out here who have children in the 7 to 3 range who will watch Puppy Dog Pals. Quite the theme song. We could sing it maybe next episode. Very exciting show.
He's the creator also the voice of Bob.
Bob. Right? Very exciting. I was spot on. Watch Puppy Dog Pals.
He was in Half Baked. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he was an actor of that time that you would see in a. Yes. He was in Down Periscope with Kelsey Grammer. Am I? Can we spot check that?
I don't know that one.
Down
maybe.
Periscope. Is he in that? We'll see. But he was in this. So he's holding this massive duffel bag, talking about, and you could tell right away because there's this whole gag about 8-minute abs, and he wants to do 7. He looks like a psychopath. So Ben Stiller's like, whoa, talk. And he pulls over to go to the bathroom at the rest stop, trips over a guy, lights come on, the show Cop shows up. Yeah. All these men are getting blowjobs in the field. Right. They're dragging him off.
And it turns out Chris Elliott watching the Cops episode also getting a blowjob.
Which is a funny reveal.
It's not. I thought it was that was one of the, like, it was just like, ugh. Like, is this really that funny? It's
okay, but come on, you didn't like. So you didn't like the police interrogation. He gets dragged. He gets dragged into a police interrogation, and the police interrogator is the bad guy from Kindergarten Cop.
Yes.
I don't think he's done anything else. He got rid of the creepy ponytail from Kindergarten Cop, and he's ramming Stiller's head on the ground.
Who's the other guy, though, is another creepy guy.
Oh, I know. I can't remember. I just know that guy. I don't know who the other guy is.
That's one of the best scenes in the movie, is that interrogation scene.
So basically the gag is the hitchhiker was a serial killer, left a dead body, and they're like, why'd you do it? Oh, I do it all the time. He thinks they're talking about picking up a hitchhiker. Right. And he's saying, how many times have you done it? I don't know, 30, 40 times.
He's like, you're talking about the hitchhiker?
He's talking about the hitchhiker? And they think he's a serial killer. And it's very well played. It's a well played episode. Yeah. So they eventually have to let him go. As this is going on, Matt Dillon is creating this fraudulent character to date Cameron Diaz. He has listened in. He has this like microphone that he's listening to everything you said. So he pretends he's a architect. Right. He gets ridiculously fake teeth. He has that mustache throughout the entire film, which was obviously pasted onto him every morning. Like they didn't even attempt to do have him grow one. They're like, we're gonna paste this onto him. But you get a couple of really ridiculous sequences where he starts talking about how he works with handicapped people. And he's so ignorant, like he's such a dumb person. The way he starts talking, like he's like, "I love those damn goofy bastards," and she's like, "What? Like, what are you like?" Even then, and it's funny because I even cringe when he uses some of the terms now because they're so out of our like lexicon or idea of what we would say. But when he starts playing football, and they cut to the scene and he's stiff arming people and knocking and he's exceptional my ass. Yeah. Because his character is supposed to be so dumb he doesn't understand why they're being referred to as exceptional.
No, it's it's terrible. It's really. There's one of the themes of this movie is like none of these characters are good people. Like, oh no,
we have a pretty good history. We've done 3 films, and in both Lebowski and this film, none of these people are people you really want.
Mary and there's one other character that we'll talk about that is probably a good person. There's Mary and one other person.
Yeah, most of them are not good people. But there's some throw-in lines there. Like she's like, "Oh, you love the classic movies?" He's like, "Yeah, Karate Kid."
Harold and Maude. Yeah,
Harold and Maude.
No one makes good movies anymore like Karate Kid or Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude. But he is good in this. I thought he did a pretty good. And again, I think his acting is not overly good based on every other, like a lot of there's some he is, but sometimes he's turned into almost like a direct-to-video type actor, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think honestly the acting in this movie is pretty damn good.
Do you think that's a great question, because last week you thought the acting was horrible in Jurassic Park. Do you think the acting's
I think it's way better in this. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think the dialogue's better too.
Chris Elliott as the friend is amazing because he has this gradual descent into madness that is so good. And it was one of the areas where I thought they were going to go full on gross at the end, and then it kind of swung back, and I think we're getting sort of to that scene right now, right?
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah. So we're gonna go towards the last thing we want to focus on is the Stiller-Mary relationship. Yeah. So Mary's like, they're kind of acting like Matt Dillon's very into her, but she's kind of like whatever. She has this odd connection to Ben Stiller. So he gets down there. Chris Elliott helps him get down there.
As far as we could tell, is only because for the span of about 3 seconds, he intervened on her brother's behalf.
Yeah. Yeah,
they never spent any more time together.
No, I honestly, I will say this slightly in the movie's defense. If you watch a lot of these romantic comedies that were put out in the 80s, which I do because
98.
Yeah. No, but I think
this
they're
was
mocking.
98.
No, I think they're mocking that, though. That's my point.
Okay.
Like a lot of those 80s romantic comedies and even early 90s, there's no premise. It's always like there's nothing that throws these people together. And I think they're probably just like, whatever. This is what happens in all romantic comedies. So we get these two together. And there's a couple of crazy scenes here.
Yeah.
Now, please tell me. So they get up this whole scene where Chris Elliott has Ben Stiller, and he's like, dude, are you going to jerk off before you go on this date? You cannot go out on a date.
Clean the pipes.
Yeah, you cannot go out on a date
with a loaded gun.
With a loaded gun. So we get this scene. Funny, like this becomes kind of what Ben Stiller movies were, and I think they kind of steadily decreased.
Right.
And I want to talk about why I think comedies are so hard to shoot after we're doing this quick review, because he has some facial expression. I feel like there's only so many go-to things that you can do. And like this scene in terms of the faces and the things he's making is kind of what he becomes in a lot of films moving forward. It's the same problem Adam Sandler had, I think. Will Ferrell eventually, like you run your course in terms of how many times Jim Carrey, how many times you can do these things. So, but basically he is masturbating. He climaxes and the door knocks and he doesn't know.
He says, "Where is it? Where'd it go?
Where is it?" Now, I don't get that. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah. So it sets up, which was obviously always the talking point about this movie, which is, I think, the shock value of it.
Right.
Comes to be that it is hanging from his earlobe. And Cameron Diaz
grabs it because she thinks it's hair gel.
Hair gel. I don't know what hair gel she is purchasing. on a daily basis, and proceeds to put it in her hair, and we get what we would call a match cut, which we talked about with Jurassic Park, to her hair being
standing straight up,
kind of flock of seagulls style.
Yeah.
Can that really happen? I don't know, and there will be no fact checking on that whatsoever. That is something we will not fact check that.
Nope,
ever.
We're good.
We're okay. I'm going to work under the premise that was the thing, and I am going to work under the fact that I'm sorry. I'm juvenile individual. I laughed. My wife laughed at this. I thought this was funny, and I know it's a cheap laugh. I think it's funny because who would ever think of this? That's one of the reasons I love it. Like, this is so screwed up.
No, I didn't laugh at it, and I don't think Katie did either. I think we were both like, and not because it is gross, but it's also like you can think of a ton of shit that doesn't make sense. The hard part in writing is thinking something that actually makes some goddamn sense and is also funny. This the premise of this makes no sense, goddamn sense.
I thought it was hysterical. I know it makes no sense, but it's also why I think The Naked Gun, some of these other movies, which I know for most people are not funny. The Police Academy movies, they are not funny, but I love them. But we can agree to disagree on it. But she falls in love with him, and we get that typical end of a romantic comedy thing where she discovers that he was stalking her, and then they have to break up, but then he goes and finds her boyfriend, who they've been alluding to the entire movie, which is Brett Favre.
Well, they've been saying Brett.
Yeah, Brett Favre, because Ben Stiller didn't know it was Brett Favre. But before that, there's a sequence where Ben Stiller's penis gets attacked. Again,
this is the part that made me laugh.
Does he have a stunt penis in this movie? Between the zipper and the dog attack. The dog attack was funny. You like it when his nails are dragging across the floor. There was some good humor there.
Yeah.
And then they match cut to him putting the dog in a full body cast on the top of the car.
Both the dog scenes cracked me up. When Matt Dillon accidentally kills the dog.
Oh, and he's frying it.
And bringing it back to life. Yeah.
Bringing it back to life.
Those were kind of funny. I don't know why they made me laugh, because it was clearly like a stuffed dog, like a stunt dog.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't even that. I have to say, I feel like in 2017... 2018, they would try to do like a CGI dog. Yes. They did not even attempt a CGI dog. This is like a dog you or I could go up in our daughter's bedroom and use in the film.
A comment from Katie in chat: don't compare this shit to Police Academy. Totally different ball game. So
which one? But I will not compare it to the first one. But what about Police Academy 6, the Miami Beach?
Yeah, the one where Steve really bad ones.
The one where Steve Guttenberg left the cast, and they cast in his place Matt McCoy of many great movies like the 80s classic Weekend Warriors. Which, if you want to look for a real obscure 80s film, research Weekend Warriors and watch that. So basically what happens is we find out that, Ben Stiller is dumped by Mary, but he goes and finds Brett Favre and brings him to Mary and says, I want you to be happy. This is what I want. And there's this whole running gag where her brother wears headphones like Jim and I are wearing, basically, when we do, if you watch the video, and he pulls it off, and usually he beats the hell out of people, including Ben Stiller at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
But he's like, oh, see you, Ted. And that triggers, I guess, in Cameron Diaz's mind.
This is what makes him the perfect man for basically the perfect woman.
Which, again, I think in 80s romantic comedies, ridiculous things like that happen. So, and she decides she's going to be with him and kisses him, and we go to the end. And that's it. I think that's all we need to do from the plot point. And we can kind of go into thumbs up and thumbs down, and we could kind of briefly talk about some things we liked or disliked, and then we'll move on to some other, because it was a very busy week in pop culture land for things that Jim and I are interested in. So we do want to hit on some of that stuff as well.
So I'll go first, and my thumbs up are for some really interesting choices that they made with this movie, like having the basically the in between scenes being narrated by a guy playing guitar and a guy playing a little snare drum.
And what did I text you when I was watching this last Friday?
Something about me doing that for the podcast.
I thought that I actually wrote a couple of songs for it.
Send them over. I'll look at them right away, Brian.
And I thought it would have been amazing if we had that. That's actually on my list as well. I thought that was awesome.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Gag. The Love soundtrack.
No, but that's okay. Both of us like that. And that narration was cool.
It was cool. But it was ruined. It was ruined by, again, the stupid choice. Like, every good choice in this movie, to me, is like outdone by 10 really poor choices.
What didn't you like about that? Well, when he got shot at the end?
Yes, when he got shot at the end is so stupid.
That's just a joke. I know. You're being so undude. You're being so uptight about this. You're taking this movie so seriously. I
have always taken movies seriously.
This is so tongue in cheek. I love that though. I agree. Okay, we can. But you love the little music bits. Yeah, the music bits were cool. I just love the whole soundtrack. I actually own
the music is good.
I own this soundtrack. There's some really cool. In fact, I was trying to dig around this week to see if I still had the disc to put onto my iTunes account. Yeah, because there was, and I forgot. And again, I picked up the Dandy Warhol thing. I didn't realize that. So I love that too. What else? Did you have anything else you liked?
The dog scenes I thought were great. It was just funny because that scene with the speed where Matt Dillon and the pizza boy, who's also in love with Mary, throw Speed up into at the dog in order to make Ted's time in the apartment a nightmare. But what actually happens is that part of the Speed goes into Magda's drink. When Mary and Ted get home, Magda is standing on the couch vacuuming the couch with a full-on vacuum, and then she's lifting. It's a really funny scene. That one, I don't know why, it just made me laugh more than the others.
Well, that's what I think. I think that's movies like this. It's going to be hit or miss.
Yeah.
Up for me, we said the soundtrack I liked. I thought the casting was pretty good in this movie. Mm-hmm. I think it probably was, and I'll go back for fact check next week. I think it was probably Cameron Diaz's best performance in something that I can think of. Because she goes. I think after this is the Charlie's Angels movies, and some other stuff. And I can't ever in my mind remember
Vanilla Sky,
which is a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
But I don't, and she was okay in it. But to me, this is a movie that I think's her best work. Again, I'll look next week and during the week and see if there's something that I think's better than that.
Everyone chime in with your Cameron Diaz movies of choice.
Yeah, but probably, there are some really bad ones. But I thought, like we've already said, I thought Matt Dillon, Chris Elliott was awesome in it. I just thought that was pretty good. There are some. I think our downs are going to be different. Like my downs are just stuff I liked and would like to have seen more of. Whereas your downs, I think we know. Two downs. I loved, and you said this too, I wish Mary's dad was in it more.
Yeah, I think when you said we disagree, I totally agree. Keith David was amazing. And the mom, they were an amazing couple together.
Post.
Yes.
How did you not get more Marky Post?
One of my favorite.
Here's my question. Do you think they tried to get the other guy from Night Court, the bailiff, and he said no, and then they could do like a Night Court gag, and they're like, we'll get Keith David instead.
I don't know.
Because I was like, as soon as I saw, but you're right, they were awesome.
And they were like a believable couple. And they were really funny. So when he first sees Ted's junk caught in the zipper, his first reaction is like disgust and, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. His second reaction is to call her in so she can see it as well.
Can see it. Yeah. They were great. Yeah. And it was a very small, I love the psychologist.
Yeah,
see, he's not even.
That guy's been in. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Well,
right?
he's big now. Yeah, he's had like this renaissance late in his career, and he's like a legitimate.
Yeah, I don't know what his
Oscar
name is.
caliber actor now. But there was just some lines in there, like where he was saying stuff that was amazing, and it was again a little throwaway part. So that's thumbs up and thumbs down. Do you want to go more downs? I feel like we probably.
No. My downs are pretty much everything else. it's almost like this movie has had like, I wonder what the division of labor is for the brothers, the Fairley brothers, because it does seem like it has two things going on here, which is one, that they could have really been way ahead of their time talking about that theme, because that theme is a really interesting, would probably play really well right now. You know, these guys that are obsessed with this girl because she's nothing more than nice to them. It's not about like her being in love with them or you know, anything other than just being kind and interested in them, as far as like who they are as people. Yeah.
I don't think they're thinking about it as deeply as you did there.
No, they did, because they even have the exposition at the end where Ted literally says exactly what I just said.
I know, but I don't know. I feel like this was set up, and I should say, I like this film. I do. I enjoy it. This might be the high watermark for them. We need to see what came after this, because before this was Dumb and Dumber, which is funny.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber is great. And
yeah, but after this, they did like Three Stooges. They did. I mean, I'll look at that as well. I'll pull that up. We could talk about the beginning of next episode as well, because I think they missed a lot after this.
Oh yeah. I mean,
they missed a lot after this movie. And I think that kind of ties into one of the pop culture talking points for the week that I wanted to just spend a couple minutes on, which is, I really think that comedies are the hardest films to make, which maybe some people think is crazy. Like, oh, you know, how are you going to tell me that this movie was harder to make than Jurassic Park, where they had to spend, you know, all this? I think that most comedies are hit or miss. You know, I think there's, you know, and I think that it takes a lot to put it out there to write a comedy, because you get, I think, a lot of times the reaction we're getting tonight, where I thought stuff was hysterical, it just hit me and it was there. Totally. And on your side, it's not there. And I don't think, and it's part of the issue I have with the lack of respect comedies get in the general critic community and the Oscars. Comedies are never nominated for anything, and for the life of me, really I don't get it.
So it's an interesting point. Like, you know, I think comedy, it's always you either think it's excellent or it's bad. There's no like that, you know, like with action movies, you could say like, oh, I enjoyed that movie, even though I know it was a bad movie. You can't do that with comedy. And you could see this outside of films. You know, I've gone to a ton of open mic nights for music where, you know, I'll see someone who's like learning, who's becoming better, and saying like, okay, there are pieces of that performance that I'm like, that was pretty good. If you see bad stand-up, it's pretty much the worst live thing you've ever seen. And it is the most uncomfortable and awful thing to witness bad comedy.
Well, and there's some just great when you talk to comedians about how they work. And I don't know if you saw it, but what Judd Apatow did, the Gary Shandling.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
You have got to watch it. It's unbelievable, because it was so much about how he constructed and wrote things. And I feel like people think when you do a drama, you put yourself out there and it's so emotional and you bear yourself, you know, as an actor. Yeah. I think it's harder to be a comedian because you're putting yourself out there. And like you're saying, when you bomb. Like a bad drama, you could say, oh, the writing wasn't great. Something didn't click. A bad comedy just falls flat. Right. And I think it's terrifying to write. Like when you attempt to go for a laugh.
Right.
And
it's bad.
And it fails. There's no in between.
No.
Because you're usually trying to deliver something that's like a home run.
Right.
And if it's not a home run, it's like a baseball now. If it's not a home run, it's a strikeout.
Yeah, so the content...
Whereas an actor, you could have a single maybe, right, or a double. It's like this was a double performance. No, you're just like, I'm going for it.
It's either funny or not. It's almost binary like that. It's either it's funny or it's not funny. Yeah, it's hard. It's real hard to do.
And
that.
It's weird. And I can just remember for that brief period when we did a show together in college, Like I would write monologue jokes, which I think are the hardest thing in the world to. And I had they weren't good.
You had some good ones. You had some good ones.
But I mean,
here and there.
but I didn't have any training or anything. And you sit there, and when people always, I think, laugh at a comedy, oh, that comedy was horrible, or that monologue joke was horrible, and they've never actually sat down and tried to write one and realize the difficulty of the way you deliver the line.
Right.
How the line's going to be delivered. And comedy is so subjective.
Yep.
And I think it's the same reason we have so many problems.
We have to ask Ron about all this stuff.
No, we do, because he was doing a show up here in Boston a couple years ago, and he and I went out to lunch, and that was kind of cool. Yeah. But you see stand-up comics talk about it. I think it's like when you try to turn a book into a movie too.
Right.
You know, you personalize everything, and it's like your vision of what that film should be, and then it's not, because the book is you.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to talk about that, especially since I knew you weren't necessarily the biggest fan of this movie.
No, I'm not.
And then there were a lot of people who were, though. There were a lot of people who were in my boat who.
Your mother included.
Well, my mother would defend it solely probably because it was my choice of the film.
But I also asked her when the last time she watched it was, and she said not in a long time, which basically to me means she hasn't watched this since it came out on video.
Yeah, no, she probably saw that. She probably saw that in the theater. I can just tell you my experience
with you and Sean, which probably couldn't have been a more awkward experience.
Yeah, no, oh no, there were many more awkward experiences in the Costello house.
We should have story time with Brian at a future date.
Not even have been in the top 100 of the most awkward things. At some point, we'll talk about what my father and I were forced to do when I was a young child.
We'll do that. I can only hope that you and Jack have the same future ahead of you.
I will never involve my son in what was done to me at points. But I will say my experience going to see it is this is the summer I was interning at Access Hollywood. So I had heard about it. And they did an advanced screening of it that I was able to go to. And I went with my friend Jerry, who Jim knows as well. And but we were 19-year-old guys.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's that wheelhouse of this movie. This is a movie, to be fair, this is not an Oscar-winning. This is a movie. You have a couple of drinks, and
I would put this at like 100 on the list of movies that I would want to have a couple drinks and laugh at. Like literally, it would be.
I thought there was some good. I'm not saying it's not some of the movies you brought up before. It's not anywhere close to Anchorman. It's not anywhere close to Old
Hangover,
School.
like any.
No. Again, this is where I'm not saying
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, basketball. Now here's the thing. Like when you think about Trey Parker and Matt Stone, those guys do what these guys do, but way better.
Well, I think they're way better. And again, but this is getting into the argument we were having with, when you were saying the opening of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the opening of I don't think it's that. This was a movie. We both picked kind of random things for people to vote on. I
hate everyone out there who's listening to this right now. You voted for Brian's movie. I'm pissed off.
By a large margin.
By a large margin. And there were close to 100 votes, right? Like on both Twitter.
Close to 100, and I won by 67% of the vote.
No, you won by 30%.
No, I had 67% of the vote.
Yes.
So maybe the next time we do fan votes, maybe you could pick a movie that people want to watch.
We had a few of them. I won't say more.
I will say this. I told you I would have happily have watched Unbreakable as well. And Unbreakable, for everybody, will be done as an episode. We're going to combine it with I didn't see the other. What's Split? We're going to combine those together. We're going to go see Glass when that comes out.
Yep.
That will definitely be done because of that. But I haven't even talked to you about this idea. The next fan vote.
So bring it up now.
Yes,
no.
Because then you have to do it.
Yeah.
The next fan vote, I don't want you and me to pick a movie.
Okay.
I want your mom to pick a movie and my mom to pick a movie. And We'll see whose movie is selected for our next fan.
I already know what my mom's going to pick, I think, but that's okay.
Okay. All right, perfect. I have no idea what my mom's going to make. Okay, 2 other quick pop culture things here we wanted to hit on. 2 big trailers that we're really interested in broke this week. And then we're going to quickly talk about Veronica Mars. First up is the Captain Marvel trailer. Yeah. We call it Marvel, but in the comics, it's Marvel is the character she takes the name from. So I don't know how they're going to phrase that, but I'm just going to go with Captain Marvel because it's my understanding that's what it's going to be.
Literally cool a captain, right? She's
a cat. And again, you only see a minute 50 of these trailers, so it's hard to go much.
So good though.
So good.
It makes,
and you know what I like about
it? Makes Man of Steel basically she's the Superman of the Marvel world.
She is Superman. She's Superman of the Marvel universe. Yeah.
And that movie looks so much better than anything they've done with Superman. I mean, I still love Superman 2 with Christopher Reeves.
Well, yeah, I almost take the Christopher Reeves ones out because I think those are
just cool. Number 2 because I think that's the only good one.
But I mean, I thought the first one was okay too. But yeah, the Brandon Roth and the Zack Snyder stuff was horrible. Yeah, you're right. It's the blockbuster. So first of all, if you haven't seen it, go see it. There's some cool looking shots and it makes me excited to go see it. And I like Marvel movies. I said that, but you're spot on. That's what Superman should be. In that 1 minute and 50 seconds, we've gotten this idea that it's not going to be a typical origin story, which I love. She's already Captain Marvel, and they're going to play the origin piece. Apparently, I don't know if she has amnesia or something. Like
it's set in the 90s.
Yeah, set in the 90s, blockbusters there. And there has been this rage with the de-aging process that Marvel's been playing around with. My God. Does the Samuel L. Jackson one look amazing?
It looks like they took him off the set of Pulp Fiction. They took him off the set of Pulp Fiction, cut his hair, and were like, in this movie. It looks fantastic.
Amazing. I literally could not believe how good it looked.
I already like the aesthetic of that movie. It looks so good to me.
Because I thought the Lawrence Fishburne one. Did you see Ant-Man and Wasp?
I have not seen that yet.
I thought the Lawrence Fishburne one was okay when they de-aged him.
Okay.
The Michael Douglas one has been pretty good. Michelle Pfeiffer is pretty good. And I thought when they de-aged Robert Downey Jr. in Age of Ultron, it was pretty. But the Samuel L. Jackson one, Jim, you're spot on. Yeah. It really looks like him from them. So check that one out. And then you brought up one to me today that just hit the web as well. I had heard about this movie, but I hadn't seen the trailer, and you told me, and I watched it right before. Why don't you say
it's called Prospect? Yeah, it's called Prospect. It looks like a small budget sci-fi movie. With I'm gonna forget his name now. The actor who plays
Pedro Pascal.
Right? Who plays
is that what it is? Yeah.
Who plays the Viper from Game of Thrones. He's also in Narcos.
The lead in Narcos.
And it just looks like my type of movie. It is this small budget, small scope sci-fi film where it looks like this young girl and her father, teenage girl and her father are prospecting what seems to be some kind of ore metal on a planet somewhere away from home. And they meet some other folks there who turn out not to be so kind, it looks like. And one of the coolest, and I got to look up this actor's name. I think it's Andre, I forget it. But he plays Bubbles in The Wire.
Oh yeah, and I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah, and
he was in that. Okay.
There's a quick shot of him, who I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. But yeah, so I would say go check out this trailer. It seems like it's going to be a little suspenseful, more suspense than sci-fi.
Absolutely. That's the vibe I got. I told you, I thought it was kind of like almost There Will Be Blood. Daniel Day-Lewis meets like the original Ridley Scott vision of Alien. Just the color scheme that they're using. Do you know what I love about it? It's a sci-fi. Aliens. Yeah, but it's also a sci-fi movie that doesn't look like Blade Runner.
Right.
You know how you always get these really dark, like the color scheme, all that is different. So check those two. Both come out in March. So it'll be awesome. That looks like two really good movies in March to go see, which, sometimes March can be a bummer of a month.
Right.
I know up here in New England, the weather is horrific.
Our friend Keenan from Pop Addled, he was just saying on their last episode that typically around his birthday, which is the middle of February, it's like a dead zone for movies. So.
It is. It's where they dump things people don't want to see. So two good movie trailers to check out there. Also, news that literally broke today. We put it on social media and got great feedback back. Kristen Bell posted that old episodes of Veronica Mars will all be changing over to Hulu come summer 2019, as will new episodes. 8 episodes of new Veronica Mars. And you might be laughing at us for praising Veronica Mars, but I honestly, everyone who knows me knows my love of Lost. And especially season 1 of Lost, which is one of the greatest things ever on TV. One of the best pilots ever.
Yeah, well, they spent it was the most expensive pilot ever too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything about it. We can have a whole episode on just Lost.
That's true. We could. We could have a whole podcast about Lost probably. But Lost, I watched both of these shows around the same time. And to be honest with you, when the end of season 1 of Lost happened, I had just finished binging the first season of Veronica Mars, which happened a few years before, I think. And
it wasn't as known because was that when it was UPN?
Yes,
or whatever.
That's what killed it. That's what killed the show.
Don't even exist.
So the UPN CW merged,
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, is what killed the show. But that first season of Veronica Mars, as far as like a story arc and characters and writing,
the
everything,
her episode writing was unbelievable.
Yeah,
it really was.
I put it right there with Lost, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah. It was great TV.
And when you explain it to someone, it's about a teenage girl in high school who's a detective. It sounds so ridiculous.
Do you know what it is?
It's very so good.
It is very Raymond Chandler-esque.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and it's we will say this, and we've talked about this, and I know Jim and I, as we get closer to new episodes, we will definitely devote time to Veronica Mars because it's something we both love. The Veronica Mars movie came out. I liked. Did you like the Veronica? I don't know.
Yeah, it was good. It was great.
Yeah,
I don't want to waste my thoughts on that right now because I'll save it.
But we have a Veronica Mars expert. And Jim's bandmate Aaron Powers, who I've already put on social media, will be attending and co-hosting episodes on it. And we have some other great Veronica Mars fans who are chiming in that we know. So that will be done. So we'll throw that out there as being done. So that's kind of our stuff. Let's transition into, before we shoot out of here for the week. Before we do recommendations, can we quickly do some news? We got some cool things upcoming.
Sure.
First of all, in a couple weeks, Jim is coming to Boston,
we
will do some joint, some real
shipping up to Boston.
That was bad. Don't call it. You're gonna don't say that.
It could have been.
Don't do that.
Do I have to wear a kilt if I come up there?
Don't say Beantown when you're here. Don't do any of those things.
If we was gonna fight them, we should have done it earlier. And we got snacks now.
Oh God! Don't do.
How do you like them apples?
Don't do any of that when you're here, please.
I gotta go see about a podcast.
Jim will be coming to Boston, and we have some fun stuff planned. We're actually going to go see Bad Times at El Royale, which we're both really super excited about.
Which looks like a 90s movie. It looks like someone watched a lot of Quentin Tarantino and just started making movies.
Let's do it. So we're going to watch that. We're going to have an instant podcast. I'm working on maybe having a guest with us up here. We're going to do another movie. We're going to do some Facebook Live videos, I think, around Boston. So we're going to
This is all news to me.
And you're just going to roll with it. This is going to be a whole.
Ask Katie. I am great at just rolling with
This is
shit.
going to be a great production. So we're excited about that. That's upcoming. Some other real big news, which I have to thank Jim for agreeing to this. We are going to do something that has not really. We're going to combine a couple of different ideas of other podcasts here. We are going to have an episode. This show clearly will be long-running and amazing, and we are going to lead to spin-off podcasts,
of course,
just like every show does.
Our producers will probably go on to be, just like Mike Holmgren has like a tree of coaches. We're going to have a tree of professionals that just go on to do great things.
So what I would like to compare this idea to is this is like the Richard Grieco character of Booker from 21 Jump Street. When 21 Jump Street got so big, they said, we've got to spin this shit off. And we need you, Richard Grieco, to go do Booker. This will probably be our Booker. It's a special episode that we are entitling Bestseller to Blockbuster. It is the Comm Majors Book Club, where we will be reading a book and then watching the film based on that. And we are happy to announce our first movie/book will be Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
I'm surprised you said that in that tone. Like usually you didn't do your Harry Potter voice.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, there you go. You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard. Harry Potter. Oh, and we have some great Harry Potter stories. It's a very manageable book to read. We are going to give you until the week before Halloween. Week before Halloween to read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and watch the film. And we're really hoping this will be a big tie-in event where people can join us live, send us in questions. I'm excited. Love Harry Potter books.
Yep.
The movies are great. We have some, I think, fun stories and things about that. So that's our news section. Recommendations.
Who's going first? Me? All right, I'll go first.
You go first. What do you got?
Back to my drink of the night, which is E.H. Taylor. Highly recommend it. Very good. Also want to recommend, as always, our friends over at Pop Addle Podcast. Yes. Keenan and Tim, this week they were just, kind of shooting the shit. But they're typically doing movie specials and retro movie specials, which is, basically they'll go see a movie and they'll record an episode right after it, giving their thoughts. Both really intelligent guys who love movies. And know a lot about film. So really check them out. Also, Veronica Mars, we already talked about it. Watch.
Start watching now. Start watching now.
Season 1. Season 1 is amazing. Season 2 is good. And Season 3 is good as well. They're not, it's a little bit downhill after Season 1, but by that time, you're going to care about the characters so much that you're going to watch the rest. I know it. It's pretty unescapable.
And it is available to be screened on Amazon Prime right now.
Right. And
so if you have Amazon
Hulu
Prime, it's
in
there
the spring,
for you.
Is what she said?
Summer. I think she said summer. But it's out there. So it'll be there for you.
And also, because of what I think was so bad, the comedy in this movie, There's Something About Mary, I wanted to recommend some stand-up comedy and shows that I am enjoying right now that I find extremely funny. Jim Jeffries has a new special on Netflix called I Guess That's Me Now. I think it's called something like that.
I Guess That's Me Now, Dad.
Yeah. So Brian's clearly watched it. Did you watch that here?
I've watched it 3 times. All of them have been at the behest of your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, there's shit humor, vomit humor, and STD humor. I mean, what else do you really need in a good stand-up?
Way better than what the Fairley Brothers presented us.
It's a really, really good
And the other two, Chris Gethard, who has the Chris Gethard show that I think just got canceled.
Which is ridiculous. It's such a good show.
So 2 things for him. Go check out his HBO special called Career Suicide. It is absolutely amazing. It's like a combination one-man show stand-up where he talks about his, in a very comedic way, his struggles with mental health. Also, Mike Birbiglia has a special on Netflix called Thank God for the Jokes that I think is one of the best stand-up specials ever.
We watched that as well when your wife came up to visit.
Me and Katie have
to Boston.
Have a problem of forcing people to watch comedy, but
both great. Those great recommendations. Me, I mixed it up. I will usually do our craft beer, but tonight I was doing Jameson's Irish Whiskey Castmates IPA edition. Again, I should just add, if you have a drink recommendation for us, let us know. We'll probably go out and buy it. If we can't find it and you're a local distributor, Send it to us.
Yeah, whiskey, bourbon.
We will drink it, and we will promote
and
it.
Beer, wine, whatever, whatever you got. I mean, if it's a gasoline flavored alcohol,
schnapps.
I think we're over schnapps, Brian.
I would, if it's free, I'll drink schnapps.
If there's a line to be crossed, it's the schnapps line.
Oh, I don't know. I think. Well, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, you would find things like Boone's and Hypnotique on the other side of the schnapps line.
I can't tell you I won't drink Hypnotique for at least one episode. My recommendations first, if you want something funny, noir, kind of crazy out there, one of my favorite all-time authors is Ken Brune. He's an Irish writer. This is the White Trilogy. And it's just ridiculous. It's like there's death, there's all this kind of craziness.
There's death? I'm intrigued.
A lot of death. You would like this, the noir stuff, but you also laugh out loud at this. Not very well known necessarily in this country, so I recommend that. And finally, we mentioned him earlier, our good friend from the University of Scranton, who's gone on to tons of other things, Ron Babcock. I recommend his comedy album, This Guy, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
This guy, Ron Babcock, amazing. Also a hero in the Costello house because he works on Muppet Babies.
Yes.
He does some work with Muppet Babies, so he's a favorite in the Costello household. But he's unbelievably funny. We don't get to see him, unfortunately, enough on the East Coast. Would love to see him more and get to hear him more. Follow him. I don't have his Twitter or any of that stuff. We'll try to push it out there because he's just constantly doing amazing stuff. And he's the best. And that's it for my recommendations.
Awesome.
What do we got plug wise? Remind everybody where they need to see us.
Yeah, you can check us out on Twitter at Majors Comm. Check us out on Facebook at Comm Majors. I'm going to try to start streaming the video there as well as Twitch. But in the meantime, if you want to check us out on Twitch, it's my channel is Soldier on TV. So twitch.tv/Soldier on TV. You can check us out there. Brian, you can also see him at B Costello Books on Twitter, and you can follow me personally on Twitter at Soldier on TV. Mostly that's just us liking and sharing the Majors Comm podcast.
We are not paid like most celebrities to tweet things. We are open to being paid to tweet about things.
If you want to pay me to tweet things,
I will tweet about almost anything. If there is money involved.
I tweet mainly about video games, so there's that.
But if you could, I will say this. We've been great on some of these sites. If you get a chance to go on iTunes, like us, subscribe to us on YouTube, like the videos, that pushes us out there. And I know we have a lot of people who love watching the show on Facebook. We've been having great social media conversations on Facebook. If you could share, because you know people who don't know us, which just get us out there. You want to tell us I was an idiot for being so down on this movie? Let me know on the Facebook comments or Twitter, whatever you want. I'm sure some people are going to have some things to say to me. But if you're on my side, Kevin Core, I think you might be the only one. There was a few others. Yeah, no, dude, Pretty Raptor is not fucking happening. If you are interested in
I'm going to wake the kids.
In some way, Pretty Raptor.
I hate you so much.
If you want to finance this film in just some way, we will give you very many credits. Wait, just one quick other thing. Other than
Roy
Pretty
Orbison
Raptor,
is rolling over in his grave.
Well, by the way, I didn't add about that. There is a whole way new song, Pretty Raptor. Oh,
stop
Pretty
it.
Raptor.
I'm going to hang up the Skype call. I'm going to finish the podcast on my own.
Make sure you will, at the beginning and end of every episode, we are listening to cuts from Anchors by Soldier On. So is this available for sale?
Yeah, it's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. You can. I still have some physical copies if people want it.
Well, here's the thing. If somebody for the, we'll have a contest soon. Maybe we could get a signed copy.
We might even have some shirts buried somewhere. I don't know.
I would love that. So that would be fantastic. Now, next week, what do we want? We're going completely different.
Yeah, so we decided, Brian was like, okay, you choose something. And I wanted to do something totally off the wall, different that you haven't seen this yet, right?
No,
neither have I.
This is not really my movie, though. I was interested to see it when it was out.
So I picked something that neither of us has seen, but it did win the Oscar for Best Picture last year. So, Shape of Water. We're gonna do, So I'm excited to see it.
Down. I haven't even. I'll find it somewhere. I don't even know where. But
Guillermo del Toro. It's
supposed to be awesome.
His aesthetic is amazing. So I'm sure I'm gonna love. And Michael Shannon's in it, who is typically amazing in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Except Fahrenheit. And actually, he's pretty good in Fahrenheit 451. It's just there's
he was
something
not
missing.
Good in Man of Steel.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
But that's not his fault.
Yeah.
That was not his fault. Another great episode. We got Shape of Water. We got some awesome stuff coming up soon. Another great night. It was great to hear it, everybody. Stay tuned. Follow us, social media, and we will talk to everybody next week.
Yep. All right.
Talk to you then, Jim.
See you, everybody.
See ya.
Katie even said, clip that. Amazing. I don't know what she was talking about, but it was something.
She was probably talking about Pretty Raptor.
No, I'm sure it wasn't Pretty Raptor.
Oh, Pretty Raptor.
No.
People are going to laugh at Pretty Raptor.